commentary about AEW going on yet another hot streak. They're back on. They're on their game this week, man. This week's Dynamite was pretty awesome. But before we get to that, of course, this is YouTube, so we do want to address all of the YouTube stuff that we need for the algorithm, for the channel to continue to grow or regrow, because I had a good channel before, and you guys know that this is us redoing it. So help out the channel, hit the like button, and share the video wherever you guys can share the video. I definitely appreciate it. I also want to let you guys know that I do have a Patreon page now, and the Patreon page, I'm actually kind of enjoying doing it now. I didn't want to do one for the longest time, but there are 2 tiers to it. One of the higher tiers is only about $5. You get the old school watch-alongs, which we had the first one this week. It's an old school Monday Night War review. We're looking at Monday Night Raw from November 25th, 1996, and WCW Monday Nitro as a watch-along, so you guys can watch it along with listening to me as we give commentary on it. It's actually pretty interesting to go back that many years, 24 years, and to look at what wrestling was like then and what some of the stars we know today are, and how much Vince McMahon likes boobs and blonde hair. But that is on the Patreon page, so hit that link down below. Sign up for the Patreon. I definitely appreciate it again, and we will be doing much more exclusive content for the Patreon page in the future. On to this commentary, AEW. Full Gear, as you know from watching my Full Gear review last week, was a really, really damn good show. It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Some really great action, some really great storytelling, all of that good stuff coming up. And then we had Dynamite this past week, where we had some, I think it's in my top 5 episodes of Dynamite this year. This past week's episode was absolutely phenomenal. They advanced the character of Kenny Omega. We've got some mystery around, did I say that right? We have some mystery around Kenny Omega. He was on the phone. He wasn't in the arena. He didn't wrestle, and they track him down, and he's talking to someone who he was happy to see again. He was about to get on a plane and go somewhere. So where's he going, and who is he talking to? The cleaner is back. Interesting stuff. Lots of intrigue there that we want to keep up on. We also had Cody in one of the fun... yes, I know the young lady, the promo, and I forget her name right now off the top of my head. Her promo was not really good, but Cody's giving a promo in the ring. This is following his loss of the TNT Championship to Darby Allin at Full Gear, and he gets interrupted, and this woman gets in there, and she's got ties to Shaq. She's been one of those people in the front row, you know, cheering on and everything else, and she comes out there, and she claims she is the total package, which I thought Lex Luger looked really interesting, that apparently he had a sex change and turned black. But no, it was not. She is not Lex Luger with a sex change, even though she does have a really banging muscular body. And she lays into Cody, lays into him pretty big. And again, it's not a really great promo. It felt like a WWE kind of promo, over-practiced, over-scripted, over-produced. However, the lines were really good. She's talking about, there's nothing giant about you, Cody. And she was talking about his manhood. Cody took it in stride. She gets up and announces, she's mad because Cody keeps talking about being a giant slayer, which I don't remember him talking that much about it. But she says that she's there kind of representing a real giant who's kind of tired of Cody's stuff. And that guy's name would be Shaq. Shaq, who's an older dude. He's in his 50s now, but he's still 7'2" or whatever he is. And he probably could in real life kick Cody's ass, but apparently they're going to be working that angle now, or trying to feel it out, like the same way they felt out Tyson and Jericho earlier in the year, to see if there's any appetite for that. And plus, obviously, this is also part of the TNT deal with AEW. AEW being on TNT, TNT being an NBA, working with the NBA as well, so you're going to get some of these basketball tie-ins. And AEW is in the right to do this because pretty much 90-some% of their income right now for this year is coming from that TV contract with TNT. So if TNT says we want Shaq on your show, you're going to put Shaq on your show. And I did see a lot of people complaining about this, as everybody does complain about everything. But you have to keep in mind, though, that even though AEW is a wrestling company for wrestling fans, AEW is also a business. And in order to continue to grow their brand of wrestling, they're going to have to do these things to reach out to the mainstream audience. While they're not that far behind WWE amongst us wrestling fans, and some of us prefer AEW over WWE or vice versa, in the larger world, most people, if you say WWE, they know exactly what that is. If you say AEW to them, they don't really know what that is. Now, they may have heard of another wrestling company, but they don't know it by name. And doing these celebrity tie-ins with Mike Tyson, with the NBA and Shaquille O'Neal and stuff like this will get them press. It will get them on ESPN. It will get them on SportsCenter. It will get them mentioned if you have a big-name celebrity sports star like Shaq involved with your show. It's worked so many times in the past. It worked with Mr. T and Cyndi Lauper in the Rock and Wrestling era. It worked with Mike Tyson in the Monday Night War era for WWF. Dennis Rodman for WCW. So it's a proven tactic, and it's smart business on their part. Now, Brandy came out afterwards, and this show went straight West Baltimore. I'm from Baltimore. It went East Baltimore, actually. It went straight East Baltimore with Brandy calling this girl, "Who you think you doing?" The head was moving, the finger was going. She called her a heifer. Said she was ratchet, trifling ass, and all this stuff up here, looking like I thought Brandy Rhodes was about to turn into Medea. To be quite honest with you, poor Jerry Lynn had to go in and separate them, and then she gets patted on the ass, and that was it. I was like, this young lady needs to work on her promos, but she's got the right idea, and with some work, this is going to be pretty good if they can work on her promo skills. But I definitely enjoyed that. They had a bunkhouse match with Butcher and the Blade against the Nightmare Collective of Dustin Rhodes. That was brutal, bloody, and fantastic. You got the Young Bucks, calling out a new hot young tag team from the Indies. You had so much stuff and so many layers in here. Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega announced that they're going to be meeting on December the 2nd. I'm going to talk about that a little bit at the end of this video. But there was so much in the show. Every segment was pretty damn good. And the main event with Phoenix versus Pentagon Jr., I'm just going to call him. Penta and Phoenix, his real-life brother, they're going back and forth. Eddie Kingston on the commentary, egging it on. And, the two brothers fighting to almost to the death. Pentagon really brutalizing Phoenix in the end with a bunch of different pile drivers on the apron, on the hardest part of the ring, on the apron, in the ring, and he finally gets the win to make up for the loss earlier in the World Title Tournament, or the World Title Opportunity Tournament about a month or so ago. And Eddie Kingston clearly favoring Penta over Phoenix, and even kind of kicked Penta out the ring after the match, talking all this stuff, and then a lot of people had suspected this was going to happen. We had the huge return of Pac to AEW, and that was a great moment. That was a great way to end the show. Pac came in there, and he's got it out for Eddie Kingston. A lot of people were wondering about this because right before the pandemic, Penta and Phoenix and Pac had formed this triad group that they were going to have, this faction. Of course, when the pandemic hit, CV hit, Pac has been stuck over in the UK, over in Europe, and wasn't able to come back over here to the United States to participate in Dynamite. So he's been on the show for 6 months or so. So they moved on with Penta and Phoenix being part of Eddie Kingston's family crew. But now we've got some conflict now that Pac is back, and Pac and Kingston are now going to get into it. Man, a lot of good stuff on the show. Darby Allin's got a thumbtack suit now. I mean, they did a really good job. This episode was really, really good. I definitely enjoyed it. And it seems like AEW's on a hot streak again. And this is yet again another one of those times where AEW, they'll be down for a few weeks, and then they'll just have some really back-to-back really good shows, and then they'll be down again, and then they'll have some really hot shows. I even said that night because I tuned in late to the show, about 15 minutes late, because I wasn't really hyped to see Dynamite. And about 30 minutes into watching it, I was like, man, I didn't know I wanted this show until I saw this show, how much I wanted to see this show. It's a really good show, a really good episode of Dynamite this week. So they're on fire again as far as I'm concerned. Now, an interesting note here about the Kenny Omega, Jon Moxley thing. Moxley, for what we can kind of see going on over in the East with New Japan, it seems that Moxley is going to be, the speculation right now, it looks like Moxley is going to be at Wrestle Kingdom, which is on January 4th and January 5th. Now, in order for Moxley to go over to Japan, he's going to have to quarantine for at least 14 days. So I'm getting the impression that the reason that AEW might be doing this match is since there's some sort of a lessening of tensions between AEW and New Japan, let's call it that Moxley may be dropping the AEW Championship on December 2nd, which would give him a full month to quarantine in order to go over to Japan and participate in Wrestle Kingdom 15 on January the 4th and the 5th, where he, for those of you who are not aware, Jon Moxley is still currently the IWGP United States Heavyweight Champion, and he hasn't defended the belt since February. And they haven't taken the belt off of him, which I think was a good idea, to not take the belt off of him, because, you know, you're going to pull him back in for this big show. I think for AEW, they don't want their world champion losing in a secondary championship in another promotion on one of the biggest wrestling shows of the year. So I think it's highly likely that Kenny Omega will be winning the AEW Championship on December 2nd. They could do something else too. They could do an injury angle with it and write Moxley off the show. Although that would not make sense if he then shows up in New Japan a month later and everybody goes, well, I thought he's injured, you know, whatever. So I think the money's probably on Moxley losing the title to Omega on December the 2nd. Regardless, it's one of the biggest main events in the short history of AEW Dynamite. I'm definitely looking forward to this one. I was there to see Moxley and Omega's first match, that unsanctioned match at the Baltimore Arena at Full Gear a year ago. Omega making a very good point that Moxley and him have never met officially. There's no record of it. He can't find a record of it, which is a nice little play, a nice little long-term storytelling there, or at least remembering continuity. I think it's more than long-term booking, but having continuity to your canon, to your storytelling, it was a really good part. And I almost forgot to mention MJF being and Wardlow being initiated into the Inner Circle. They're going to Vegas. Sammy Guevara apparently is still getting a lot of guff from MJF. We know where this is going, but the journey towards MJF getting the Inner Circle out from under Jericho is interesting, and they're not really giving it to you because 3 of the 5 members of the Inner Circle want nothing to do with MJF and Wardlow. You know, Wardlow and Jake Hager are still eyeing each other up like 2 pieces of meat in a butcher shop. So, you know, it's how they're going to get to where we think this is going. I just want to watch. I want to enjoy the ride, man. And that's the cool thing about AEW. When they're on fire, they're really, really good. When they're not on fire, it's kind of like, meh. So I want to know what you guys think, though. Do you think AEW is on fire? What do you think is going to be the resolution of this Moxley Omega thing? They got this world title match coming up on the 2nd. And where do you think this MJF thing is going with the Inner Circle? I want to know your opinions. Let your voice be heard in the comment box below. Until then, of course, if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, and definitely share this video on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or wherever you talk about pro wrestling and all elite wrestling. Until then, I will see you guys for more news, rumors, and commentary right here on Rassslin for webchannel24.com. Have a good day.